I'm Chris.
And I'm Brittany Parchman. Our son is Christian Parchman. And on December 12th, 2014, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And Chris was out of town on work. He had fallen on the steps and was crying way more than we couldn't figure out why he was crying so much. And then just little things seemed to hurt him a lot. And then he woke up one morning and just couldn't walk on one of his legs and just said it hurt really bad. And I called Chris and he said he could have sprained it or who knows. So we took him to the doctor. I had taken him there. They were doing the x-ray and everything looked fine. And so they were going to send us home, but coming out of actually going into the x-ray, we ran into my parents who were in the same building for a different doctor. And my mom just kept saying that she really felt like he had a fever.
And she insisted that she take him back in there, that he had a fever. And so they went back in, and sure enough, I think the pediatrician told us he had a low-grade fever.
So she was like, okay, well, since he has a fever, you guys need to go get some blood work done to make sure he doesn't have an infection in his hip.
Right.
And that night, the doctor called us and said that his platelets were extremely low, his blood counts were everywhere. Nothing really, she didn't know what it was, but she said we had to go straight to the emergency room. The next morning, they just kept doing more and more tests, and they finally did this test where he was a hematologist, oncologist, and he did a marker test of some sort to look for like immature white blood cells, and that's where he found it. Or Christian's oncologist, as very matter of fact. So he came in and he was like, well, it's acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and here's the percentages, and and I was just like, I just remember I was like, no, and he goes, yes, you're in shock. So I called Chris, and I was probably rambling.
I was a complete idiot at that time, only because I knew what leukemia was, didn't know the severity of it. So when she mentioned that, I thought, okay, he's got a cold. And she kept repeating to me, Chris, they think he has leukemia. So I get off the phone with Brittany, and one of my coworkers were sitting with me, and Chris, is everything okay? I said, oh yeah, my son is in the hospital. They think he has leukemia. And the guys around the table just literally dropped their jaw. And are you okay? My boss was like, okay, I need you to pack and you go home right now. And no, I'll go in the morning. No, you need to go right now. So I packed up as much as I could and I called her, and then that was the true beginning of the journey.
As things started to unfold, and they were getting ready to do, the day they did his bone marrow aspiration was the first dose of chemo they gave him intrathecally, which was through his spine.
Right.
And they also gave him a PICC line in his arm so that they could directly pull blood and give chemo. The first year was pretty rough because there was a lot of chemo. He was going in sometimes on like every 10-day basis to get chemo in his spine. Yeah, the oral chemo at home, and we had to wear masks and gloves. And before he had his port put in, we'd have to flush his PICC line and put heparin in it. We came home and it looked like our mudroom was like a pharmacy. We had like saline, syringes, and heparin. And
once I came home and actually did a little bit more research, then it hit me like a brick wall that this was a really, really serious condition. And I think that's truly when the realization that he possibly could die. So that conversation for me and Brittany was pretty difficult.
Yeah, to let your mind go there. And I remember Chris, I would just, to rewind a little bit, at the hospital, I was just crying all the time.
So I had to take off of work for about 9 months, almost a year. But we had a fund set up through our, at that time, current church was Central in Carmel. So financially, we didn't have a lot of worries. So we were in the house
about a year.
Lot. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, people would come to us here and there, but we were so afraid of him getting sick. Anytime he'd have 100.4 fever or higher, we'd have to go immediately to the emergency room so he could have IV antibiotics.
So there was a lot of indoor activities. We also had families come to fellowship with us And they also, Central did this amazing thing by setting up almost like a video.
So they FaceTimed us.
FaceTimed us.
The services.
The sermon. So
Yeah.
we were sitting in the living room actually
Watching the service. Yeah.
But that's how restricted we were with having outside contact.
And we just became like, I know for me, I became like terrified of Christian going anywhere, doing anything, and it definitely affected his self-esteem, and just that he felt like this sick kid. He didn't like get to just be Christian. He was a little depressed, I think, and because the only things he got to do were like therapy and things like he was going to doctor's appointments for like 4 or 5 days a week, every week. Before Christian even started treatment, we met a woman named Becky, who was an adult oncology nurse at the same hospital Christian goes to. She's been a huge part of explaining things to us and helping us and encouraging us and advocating for Christian. But then like when we'd been home for so long, I know we started to get stir crazy. Our faith was struggling because we weren't being discipled, because we just weren't around people. And then with our friends finding Nehemiah and not being around as much, the kids started asking about seeing their friends, and I know like Peyton Johnson, she would invite the kids to kids church. And I was like, well, what is the big deal about kids church? What do you like? What do you like about it? And she's like, oh, just getting turned for the Lord, and getting hyped for Jesus. And I was like, what is this place? And so I was afraid of it, and because it just sounded like there's a lot of kids, and I just saw germs. But then we started going,
Lots of germs.
Because that's all I could picture. But then we started like letting Christian come, and it was just amazing. It like opened a whole new.
Yeah, for everyone.
For all of us.
Yeah, because then we started to attend
Nehemiah,
and the families here just welcomed us.
Oh yeah, it was like family. It was just like they'd known us forever. And, And Christian, I think the coolest part was he was just Christian because they just saw him as another kid, and that was huge for him. And he just he started signing up for the lip sync battles, and
the lip sync battle is where the person that is singing on the screen, you move your lips by copying the song.
Right. That's cool, isn't it?
Every day they'd be like, how many more days till kids church? And same for his sister Amaya, his big sister. It was huge for her to have friends and people to talk to, and because this has been a very difficult journey for her too.
So here we are.
Yeah, so now we go, the kids come every week to kids church. I volunteer at the registration desk every other week. It's just become a part of our lives.
It's part of our family now, so for us.
And he has 14 more days of chemo now. That's it. And we know that moving forward, we're gonna need to continue having our church family support system, to not dwell on what if it comes back, and just to thank the Lord for what he has done for us.
Every time I go to kids' church, I learn something new.
What's your favorite part of mine?
To see Christian happy.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? You like dancing?
Yeah.
It's been a journey that we've all grown in. Families from other churches, they are always telling us how encouraging Christian situations has been through their life, through maybe some of their difficult situations. So I think through this whole process that it's brought a lot of people to Christ, even in disguise. So that's probably one of the biggest things for me through this whole thing, is just watching everyone grow through this process, and everyone walking alongside of us through this process as well. So it wasn't easy by any means, but with Christ, we were able to deal with it. I mean, we were able to go through it, and here we are, victorious.